Welcome to the Indie Author Showcase. I am multi-award-winning author Chad Robert Morgan.
And I'm in Hello Kitty glasses.
You are definitely in Hello Kitty glasses. Not that you can see it under that mop of hair.
You can see one of them.
You can see one of them.
And half the other one. It actually fits the, look. Okay.
I seriously don't know how you can survive with that much hair in your head. I really, truly don't.
Oh, you should see. I have an average amount of hair.
I know you guys.
Oh, you know. You should see my school did.
No, I tell you. I used to have longer hair before I joined the military. And I had to spend 4 years with my hair. Like, this is long for me. And with 4 years of my hair cut short, now when it gets long, it feels like I have like just this big weight on my head. It's like, I don't know. I can't wait to get this chopped off. It's too much. I wanted to get chopped off this weekend, but we got busy getting ready for Monsterpalooza, which is when?
Next weekend.
Next weekend in Pasadena. So, since we're getting ready for another convention, and this is Monsterpalooza has been a really good convention for us. I think that was the first convention. I think it's the first convention we broke even.
Yeah.
So, so a little bit about our strategy for conventions is...
Sell money, get paid?
Well, our goal is to break even. If you are an independent author and you're looking to make money at some of these book fairs and stuff like that, probably not going to happen. If you are doing good, you're breaking even. So, which begs the question, why do we bother doing it? For me, it's a marketing thing. It's getting our name out there. We're trying to build an audience. We are an independent. I'm an independent author. When you're an independent author, you're also an independent publisher. You're an independent marketer. You have to do this all on your own. So this is a marketing thing for us. My goal is to break even, so I'm not doing this at a loss. If I'm doing that much, then I'm doing good.
Mm-hmm.
Profit is kind of pie in the sky stuff. I am a little bit hopeful that we might make a profit this time, because one of the things that we do to supplement the income we make at these conventions is the related merch. One of the things that we do is we 3D print the monsters from our novels and paint them and everything like that. Last year at Monsterpalooza, we had smaller glow-in-the-dark versions, and we sold a handful of those, which was really good. So we're going to have the glow-in-the-dark ones, but we're also going to have our really big, fully painted ones. And the one time we went to a convention with a couple of those, and we sold both of them. And when we were at WonderCon, we met a few people that were interested in the big ones, and we're going to be at Monsterpalooza.
Buy the big ones.
I am hoping that we are going to sell a few of those big ones.
Spend $900 on all big ones.
They're not that much.
All three of them are.
If you buy... Well, no, actually, all three of them together is... No, all three of them is going to be like, about $1,000.
Yeah, no, I'm correct.
3, 6... It's actually more than $1,000 at full price. It would be almost $1,200.
When it comes to money, don't doubt me. That's what they say.
Well, actually, if you buy two of them, it's about $900. Because the Monogal is $450, and the other two monsters are well, we haven't priced the Tick Balling yet. Dog Monster's $350. I'm guessing Tick Balling's going to be about $350. So, but since we're talking conventions, let's talk a little bit about sales strategy. What do we do to get people interested in buying our book? Because that's the important thing. Like, if we're selling T-shirts, we're selling 3D prints, that's just a supplement, right? What we really want is to sell books. right?
Right.
So how do we get people interested in buying our books? What are some of our go-to sales techniques? What has worked for us in the past?
Filipino mythology.
So it is a very unintended consequence, but one of the things that has worked well for us is the fact that the Baby Eater is based on Filipino mythology, and we have gotten a lot of book sales by people coming up and saying, my mom used to tell me stories about that. Or, back in my country, we used to have a creature like that called a mananagal. Oh my God, that is a mananagal. That kind of thing. So we've had a lot of sales based on recognition of the monster from the culture, right? So that's worked in our favor, and that was an unintended consequence. We didn't plan on making a book that was going to cater to a specific audience. We just thought that this was a cool story that I could work on with your mother, who is Filipino, and we could work on it together. But what I'm more interested in is, how do we get people to the table? How do we get them to hear the sales pitch? What are our sales techniques?
We yell at them.
We yell at them. That usually doesn't work too well.
It works well for me.
Yelling at them?
Yes.
One of the things that I have found that works well.
You see, it's the other thing. If they don't like talking to people, then they'll come with just to be not rude, and then they'll listen.
Well,
Boom.
I think you're landing on a key point, which is you have to strike up a conversation, right? Like when we were at WonderCon, I saw a lot of authors, and they were just sitting there, and they were waiting for people to come to the table. And the first convention we did, your uncle your uncle Padre brought a friend, Ben, who was a hardcore salesman, and he was constantly working the floor, and he was constantly talking to people, and we were just basically taking cliff notes the entire time. The sales approach according to Ben, right? And we learned a lot from him. And one is, you can't be shy. You can't be a wallflower. You can't sit there and wait for people to... How many people were walking by and we would strike up a conversation, and then they're like, oh, you wrote these? Oh, these are books? Oh, they're so inundated with because everybody, all these booths, they're going to have banners, they're going to have glowing lights, they're going to have all this stuff, and it becomes white noise after a while, right? Nobody is going to any of these things looking for you specifically unless you've met them in a previous con, right? So, you have to get their attention. One of the things that worked well for us is having the big painted Mananagal, right? Because like even at Comic-Con, we didn't sell anything like that at Comic-Con. But it got people's attention. People wanted to come over and see the statue. They wanted to take pictures of it, right? So that worked in our favor, even if we didn't sell any. The one thing that I find is very helpful is if you have something to hand out.
Like bookmarks. Random example. Crazy.
That's what we're going with now. We saw people doing that at HorrorCon, and we're like, well, why didn't we think of that? Because we're selling books. Bookmarks should have been like the most obvious thing. But the first time we did Monsterpalooza, we did hand out flyers.
They're like basically bookmarks.
Well, except they're bigger. They're like this,
Basically bookmarks.
If you fold it in half, it's a bookmark. But we had flyers, right? And the nice thing about whether it's bookmarks or flyers is that they're cheap, right? We got 200 bookmarks for like $60, right? Other things we've given out in the past are fridge magnets that have our website on it. That went over pretty well. again, you want to give them something that they'll keep. Not something that they'll just crumple up and throw away. Which is why the flyer didn't work as well. I don't think. People might keep a bookmark because it's useful. People might keep a magnet because it's useful. But you want something that they're inclined to keep and is very, very cheap. Right? Because you're going to be giving away a butt ton of these, right?
Yeah, small amount, as they say. Small amount.
So we did that at WonderCon. That worked really well. And it's a great way just to get the conversation started. You hand out saying, would you like a bookmark? And at least half the time, they'll stop just to be polite. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they'll go, no, I'm not interested, or no, thank you, and everything like that. But most of the time, at least half the time, especially if you talk to the ladies, I've noticed this. The ladies are more inclined to be polite. They're more inclined to stop and accept out of politeness. I've noticed that.
Wow.
So again, it's not like I'm taking a poll, but it always seemed to be that if there was a guy and a girl, like a couple, and I tried to hand it to the guy, they would walk off. If I tried to hand it to the girl would stop, and the guy would kind of get that like, oh god, she's stopping again, kind of look, kind of like.
Well, or maybe you're biased and sexist. Maybe you're just really biased, because maybe you're just being derogatory towards women. Wow, can't believe you right now. Your bias is clouding your views. Because personally, for me, it's been about equal.
Has it been equal for you?
Yes.
Okay.
So
well,
I think you're biased and incredibly sexist.
You're trying to get us canceled again.
I'm not joking about the equal part. No, that part is correct. I'm not. Okay. On the sexist
well, no, but
part.
I mean, this is a good thing. So, you're saying you've not had that experience, that you have had an equal response.
Yes.
I think you have an advantage when it comes to selling the books or getting people's attention because you're young.
Because I'm cool.
No, because you're young. Like I don't know how many times I've stood there and you're doing your sales pitch, and they look at me and says, "Oh, you got them trained good." Like they like hearing it from you.
I'm just that charming.
Because you're 16. Because you're a kid.
I got that. Oh, let me pull up the quote. Give me a second.
What quote?
Give me a second. To quote my friend, I have pretty boy privilege.
Well, okay, so you're using your pretty boy privilege. They're more likely to talk to the young boy than the overweight old fart over here.
Yeah.
Excuse you.
Privilege. I don't think I've ever been more glad when someone ever called me what was it? That I had pretty boy privilege.
Whoever called you pretty boy didn't see all the zits on your face. Anyway.
Wow.
Anyway. So for me, the important thing is to start the conversation. And that is usually very helpful if you have just a question or something to hand out, right? Like the bookmarks are really helpful. When we were at WonderCon, one of the things that we did was, because we had such a variety of authors, I was trying to get the authors to work together to get the right reader to the right author, right?
Friendship, power of friendship.
Well, it's the same philosophy of this podcast. The idea is to work together, not compete with each other, because people who are avid readers tend to read specific genres, right? They're horror fans, or they're fantasy fans, or they're romance fans.
Or they all about whatever 50 Shades of Grey is.
Yes.
Hard smut. That's what that would be.
Point being, they like what they like. And if someone comes to my booth and they see a horror novel and they're not into horror novels, they're not going to want to buy it.
Yeah.
And no amount of sales pitch is going to fix that,
Yeah,
right?
but if you go over to that guy over there, Thomas Bonafont, he has some really good hard smut that you can read if you're into that.
Well, we did that actually at WonderCon because there was actually one booth that was.
Oh, yeah, you forgot. No, there was someone who was hard smut. Ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I think their book covers were like Futanari fantasy.
We've talked about this before. Forgot about that. Yep, no.
Like that. I mean, that was like hard. Like that wasn't even like.
Not even subtle.
Like one of the other authors is Cynthia Diamond, and we're going through her book now, and we'll talk about her book in a future podcast. And so she is paranormal romance, and there are some pretty steamy scenes in there, but yeah, there's some scenes in there you might want to just like skip. I'm telling you that now. But the point is, it's like that's not the entire book, right? Like nothing actually happened until about 2/3 of the way through the book.
And then after that, the wild rabbits.
There are, yeah, they well, it glosses over most of it, but I mean, there are definitely some. There's about maybe 3 chapters I would like to cut out before handing it to you. I'll be honest, but that's all right. But point is that is actually a book that has some raunchy stuff in it. Those people that were way at the end of it, they didn't have a story. They just had just the raunchy bits. That was just nothing but wall-to-wall raunchy bits.
Yeah, just the hardcore smut.
Yeah, hardcore smut.
The worst part is they got quite a bit of attention.
Did they really?
Yeah.
One of the things that we were trying to do when we were at WonderCon is when people were walking by, I would ask, "What's your genre of choice?" And most of the time, people are going, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
What's a genre?
Yeah. And they would go, "What?" And I said, "What kind of books do you like to read?" And
they responded with, "I don't like books," and ran away from you.
that happened a few times, right? There's some people that are like, "I don't like reading," and they would walk off.
I hate books.
Yeah, well, this was WonderCon, not the LA Festival of Books, so that actually didn't happen as often. I know, LA Festival of Books, that was like our go-to response at that point. I was like, horrible. Who goes to a book festival that doesn't like to read books?
Me, I hate books, and I go to the LA Festival of Books.
We would ask them, "What's your genre of choice?" And they were, "What are you talking about? What do you like to read?" "Oh, I like fantasy, or I like sci-fi."
I like hardcore smut.
And I was like, "You like hardcore smut? Go to the end of the hall because the guy's right there." Point is that we're trying to find a match for the reader, and the goal was hopefully if the other readers or the other authors were doing the same thing, and if they had someone who was into hardcore horror, they can send them our way, or while I'm sending I had a few people that liked documentary style things or nonfiction, and we said, well, it's not nonfiction, but there's historical fiction down the end because
It's alive.
It's alive. The author was there, and he actually came up and said, that made a world of difference. I got a lot of customers that came to my booth because you recommended them. So,
and who did that for us?
Well, the sci-fi guys down the couple tables down said they were sending guys our way. Like I never had anybody come up to the table and says so and so sent me, but some of the other authors did say that they were at least trying to reciprocate. So I'm assuming so, but I mean we did well at WonderCon.
Because we're awesome.
So.
And we'll always do well.
But let's talk about somebody we met at WonderCon, which was Todd Fahnestock. And we interviewed him a couple podcasts ago, and we talked about his book. Uh, the first
The first Wildmane book.
the first Threadweaver book.
Oh yeah, it's called Wildmane.
It's called Wildmane.
It's about. Can you guess who it's about?
Well, that's one of the main characters.
Yep, it's
right?
not. He's not the main character. He's just one of. The real main character is this one girl,
Do you remember her name?
Mel.
Merida?
Yeah,
Merida?
something like that. Something along those lines. I don't think it was Merida actually. It was something. It wasn't Merida. That's the point. Yeah, it took us a while to get through this book because it is a kind of a monster. It's big. It's chunky.
It's a good size. It's not the biggest book I've ever read, but it's a good size. It's a lot of independent authors tend to write short books.
nice
right.
and it's nice and juicy.
If you're done. No, it's a good size chunk to read. And what did you think about it?
It was good. I don't know. The story was good, not great, but it was good. The action was great. There was a lot of action. The action was good. I don't know. The main plot itself was just like good. You know, it's like it wasn't like great, but it was like.
Well, I really dug the magic system in this book.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the thread reading series because I was thinking about like string theory when I was reading it. Right?
As most people just think about,
Well, but I mean like string theory, says basically everything is a series of strings that are vibrating at a certain frequency and the whole universe is made of that. This is like the fantasy version of that, where literally she was seeing the universe made of strings, and she's like pulling and plucking at strings to make things happen. And then she could just like reweave these strings to change like a boulder to a table kind of thing.
I spun these strings and I used my testicular torsion spell.
Point being, I thought
the testicular torsion in this episode, but hey, here we are.
Point being, I thought the magic system was, really interesting and creatively designed, right? And like I said, it reminded me of string theory, so I kind of felt like there was like I don't want to say it was realistic because of course it's fantasy, but that like I could buy into the world is made that way because there's a theory in physics that the world actually is made this way, and then the whole thing about the God spill, right, which is basically where magic came from, right? The gods created this world and like they spilled their power onto it. It kind of makes it sound a little bounce chicka wow wow.
Oh no, I can make it worse. And then the gods busted all over and the magic was born because they
sounded a little like that.
The gods splooged. Yeah, I think I just made it sound worse. When using the word busted and splooged, you're welcome. You want to sound anything? Why don't you use busted and splooge, dude?
The gods nutted.
And then he uses magical nuts to create magic.
So in the book there is what do they call it? Dalen's Fountain, right?
Yeah.
Basically they capped the god spill. They capped the source of magic. And so
they capped the god spawn. They put a cap on it.
Yeah.
Not limit.
Yeah, they put a condom on gods.
They gave him estrogen.
Yeah. So the whole plot is this girl Merida. See, now you got me wondering if that's her name because you said that. I thought it was Merida.
Google time.
There wasn't Melinda.
No, Melinda's like a dumb name.
No. Mirala.
Mirola.
Mirala. That's what it was. Mirala. Not Merida. Mirala.
Mirola.
Mirala. I listened to the audiobook. Mirala. Sorry, it was Mirala, not Merida. Mirala. Okay, so basically Mirala is sort of like this chosen one type prodigy. She's a Threadweaver, which is basically a magician in this world.
I can grab the god's splooge.
Well, but she doesn't know what she is, and in fact, she's living in a world where Threadweavers are basically considered the devil. She's had most of her family were killed because they thought her brother was one. This guy Orlin comes in and says, "Hey, you're special, and you can help me bring magic back to the world." And so they go. That's what starts the journey, and the idea is, the fountain has been capping the magic from the world, and because of that, the world's been dying. So they want to basically destroy the fountain and let the magic
and let the gods nod again.
Yeah.
The
gods have been a little backed up because it's been a few hundred years.
Yeah, they put a cock lock on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to poke a hole in the big giant god condom.
Yeah.
And let the
god's splooge again.
Todd is never going to interview us again.
Never again.
We will never hear from him again.
Oh boy, next one is gonna be real awkward.
Yeah, it's going to be a little weird.
Did
you say?
We really are burning bridges out here today, aren't we? Oh,
we are today. Yeah.
Oh.
We do like Todd.
Great,
I don't think he's
guy.
going to like us anymore after this. Oh, Todd's fantastic.
Wonderful guy.
I think we're going to be maxing out even Todd's patience with this podcast.
It's almost like we put his book in the sex dolls. We can just say we'll put it into degenerate language. We'll put it in language that degenerate, brain-rotted degenerates like my friends can understand.
We talked about it last podcast, but one of the things I didn't like about it was, there's two things I didn't like about it. And keep in mind, I like the book. It took me a while to kind of get into it and get into the flow, but once I did, I really enjoyed it. But there was a couple of parts that I didn't like. One was there was a lot of narrative world building dumping that was happening, right? And we talked about that with Todd in the previous podcast. He says, "Yeah, now I don't do that anymore." But there are a type of fantasy reader that really enjoys that kind of thing, right? They're like fantasy anthropologists. Like they want to know, all the nuts and bolts and everything of how this world was built. They want to know all the history. They're like, fake history nerds. So, okay.
I actually know that it isn't God's nuts.
Point being, I found that part like a little tougher to chew. Like, not that it wasn't interesting, but it was like, okay, yes, we get it. We're in a history class right now, and I wanted to get into. And Todd was saying that in his later books, he doesn't do it that way anymore. It's more, the narrative the history is more naturally woven into the narrative, which is what I would like. So I kind of want to read his later books, to see how that goes. Because that was one part that was a little hard for me to chew through. The other was, and we mentioned this in the last prologue or the last podcast, that prologue seemed to go nowhere. With the unicorns.
I like the unicorns.
But those were the ones that showed up like 2/3 of the way to like rescue Wildmane. Like remember, like there was this Deus Ex Machina, like 2/3 of the way through the story, and the one person's like, "No, let me stay. I know Metaphase from 300 years ago," and it's like, "Nope, they can't see us. They can't know we were here, and we're going." And I was like, "Okay, I get that this is a long, sprawling epic, and I'm guessing this is going to make sense later, but." I'm of the theory that book one is book one is book one. You tell a book, right? You tell a story. Like, look at the Harry Potter series. There's an overarching storyline that goes through all 7 books, right? But each book is an individual story with its own beginning, middle, and end, right? There isn't like, the Goblet of Fire didn't end when he went into the maze and it was like to be continued, that kind of thing. It had its own conclusion, and yes, there were still questions left to be answered in book 5 and book 6, but it had a beginning, a middle, and end. It had a story arc that was completed. Now, that story arc was part of a larger 7-piece story arc, but it had its own story arc. Just like with Wildmane. Wildmane had its own story arc. It had its own beginning, middle, and end. But the prologue doesn't fit with the rest of the book. And that's what threw me. And again, I'm guessing there's more to it throughout the rest of the series, but that was one part I didn't particularly.
I love the prologue.
You're just being a contrarian, aren't you?
I just like the unicorns.
I would have liked them to have done something with the unicorns instead of just.
I also wish that there was more of the unicorns, but I like the prologue because there was unicorns. Love myself some unicorns.
That you never saw again.
Better than no unicorns. Would you rather have a unicorn show up twice? Or nice? Not nuns. Zeros.
I would like it to make sense in terms of the story.
I would like there to be more unicorns. But that's just me.
So, well, those are the negatives. Let's talk about the positives. Because we did, we're sounding kind of negative on Todd's book, but we did actually enjoy the book.
Very much so.
Like I said, I did like how the magic system was working on.
I love the God Nut.
He will never talk to us again if we keep on with the God Nut. I'm telling you that right now. We need
never.
I did like Marilla is one of the main characters, and she is kind of our ignorant stranger point of view to get us into the book, to get us into the narrative. Because she's the one that's like, oh wait, I know I can do magic. I need to be taught what magic is and how this all works and everything like that. So as she's learning, we're learning, right? But what was really interesting is we had this character Metaphase, right, who's a demigod. Basically, he was a mortal that was basically possessed by this god. So now he's immortal, and what I thought was interesting about the character was how depressed the guy was because he's immortal.
I would be too.
Well, but you don't usually think about it that way.
Yeah, no, actually, no, that's... Really? Being immortal would suck.
Well, I mean, but how many times do you have an immortal character and he's just so... I mean...
Often.
When?
Because that's like one of the most common tropes. Because if you're immortal, you have to watch all your friends die over and over. You can't form any meaningful connections. I've seen that so many times. I've seen things that's press the button, you are immortal, but also you are immortal. That being immortal would suck.
Well, I mean, but Doctor Who's pretty much immortal, but he...
No, because he technically, he like pretty much dies. Pretty much dies. When he gets reincarnated, that's basically death.
But it's still him. Like, he has all the memories, right?
Yeah, but he's a completely new dude, so it's technically still death. He's it's like he's basically like he died.
It's straddling it. But I mean, but the guy's like, even when like he's in the Master, he's like, I'm 900 years old and everything like that. I mean, the dude goes on forever, and he's still pretty upbeat and optimistic. He's I mean, sometimes he gets moody about it, but look at the what do you call it? Not the Vampire Diaries. The Interview with the Vampire series, Anne Rice. Sometimes the vampires would get a little moody about being immortal. But by and large, I don't remember that ever being a defining character trait. Like, the entire book was him being bummed and having to get over it.
Maybe it's just like an anime thing. Maybe. Like to the point. That's like one of like that's like one of like the main things of Death Note, isn't it?
No, who's immortal in Death Note.
The Shikigami.
They're just bored,
Because they're immortal.
but they're not depressed.
They don't want to be immortal. I know like so many characters. Not I don't know, but it's like a common trope that when you're immortal, you're depressed. I thought that was a pretty common thing.
I don't know. I'm not thinking of any immortal beings that are bummed over it.
Yeah, like that. I remember that's not like a thing that people are, like happy about.
Well, I mean, like I said, I've known immortal beings in literature to occasionally get bummed by it. Like Lestat in one of the books tried to commit suicide by flying into the sun, right? And then he wound up just getting a really good tan off the whole thing.
Trying to think of one of my favorite characters that would technically be called immortal. Yeah, I don't know.
But like I said, I don't remember it ever being a character's like defining trait. Like, the whole story arc was about him getting over the fact that he's immortal and dealing with depression, basically.
Yeah, I'd be pretty depressed if I was immortal, dude. That'd suck.
I wouldn't mind it.
I think you would.
Nah.
It's terrible, dude.
Why?
You watch everyone you know die, so you can't form meaningful connections.
Dude, have you seen what our family has gone through the past few years? We're watching people die left and right anyway.
Okay, that is kind of true.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey. And then, like, you would get bored after a point, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd still feel pain. Like, what are you gonna do after all this time? You're just gonna, like, oh, man.
I think it would be fascinating to watch the family evolve over time.
And also, what would happen eventually when it's just like the world is just like there's gonna be a point where like the world just gets ruined, right? What are you gonna do then if that ever happens? You're done, and you're just kind of like stuck there forever. Or like, what if on the off chance that like, what is it? Like one state gets a little greedy and launches a nuke, and then MAD happens. You know, mutually assured destruction, and the whole world is just gone. And like, what are you gonna do then? You're just gonna sit there and be like. To your thumbs like, oh well, oopsie daisy.
Point being is, I don't think I've seen it where the whole book was him dealing with the problem with immortality, which I thought was interesting. And like you said, it kind of makes a little sense if you think about it. But I don't think anybody's really played with that concept that far. You know what I mean? Like it's been touched on, but I mean, this was like I said, the whole book, the whole point of the book was getting over his depression.
Yeah. We all been in short in time here.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up. Let's talk about our convention schedule. Let's wrap it up by discussing our convention schedule. First of all, if they want to support the podcast, where can they find our books and our merchandise?
Spectral Inc.
No.
No, shopspectralinc.com.
ShopSpectralInc.com,
Okay.
where you can find links to all 5 of our books, as well as our T-shirts, our book bags, our 3D prints, blankets, mugs, hoodies, sweaters.
I just had a really funny joke that had to do with all God's blue bit.
Moving on.
Angelic Con. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's Has Been Hotel. Anyway,
This is my monster condom for my Magnum dong.
and
Love Pokes and Mac.
anywho, so let's talk about convention schedules. Where are we going to be at?
Monsterpalooza.
We're going to be at Monsterpalooza in Pasadena next week. Then in September we have what?
Sun.
No, Son of Monsterpalooza is not till October. What?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know what's next.
What? September.
I don't know what's in September. I'm scared of September. What's in September?
Well, we have HorrorCon, followed by Creep IE Aftermath.
And that?
Well, then it gets to be October, and we have Son of Monsterpalooza. What?
I'm scared.
Of what?
Children.
Children aren't terrifying.
They all pretty spooky.
Yeah.
They all pretty scary.
Well, we haven't been approved yet, but if we wind up with Creep It Real Festival, that we're going to have to start dealing with some children, because that is a big fun one in Santa Ana. So, okay. You need to go to bed because you're being weird. All right.
Toodaloo.
We really need a better sign off.
No. Toodaloo.
So, I'm Chad Morgan,
And I'm Alexander Morgan.
and this has been the Indie Author Showcase.
Toodaloo.